Hi everyone, my name is Kaveh. I am here from Within. We are a performance branding agency where we help line up media, creative, and measurement to help our partners like Movado Group here drive profitable growth. I'm a director at Within, so basically what that means is I help our partners lead strategy, and I specifically focus on measurement and measurement frameworks. And with me, I have my dear friend Alicia here. I'm going to turn the seat a little bit so I can face you a little bit more.
Feeling that too. Sorry, guys, we just changed our whole setup here.
I have my friend Alicia here from Movado Group. You want to introduce yourself real quick?
So Alicia Reich, Vice President of Digital at Movado Group. We are the watch with no numbers. You've probably seen us before, Black Dial, High Noon Dot. My role within the company is my entire team is tasked with leveraging data to drive revenue. We're not the emotion, we're not the brand, we're definitely not the creative people, but we will ensure that we're gonna make money profitably and help measure it along the way. And we do that with Within.
Yes, yes. And today we're here to talk to you all about the importance of measurement framework, why it's good to have a good sound measurement framework, as well as why it's important to, how can I say this? Why it's important to have a measurement framework and why it's important to give your space to be able to measure the impact of measurement. And to start, we want to start with a very simple question: why measurement matters. Obviously, there's a very obvious answer, which is it's the way you keep yourself accountable as a marketer for all the media that you're running. But there's more to that, and I actually want to pass it over to Alicia. As a VP, why is measurement, having a sound measurement framework, important for you?
We live and breathe by measurement every day if we have data, right? So the first thing is, most importantly, it unifies us. We all start to speak the same language if we're understanding the same foundational measurement frameworks. Two is we do a lot of testing, and some of them can be micro testing, some of them can be longer lead time testing, and you really want to make sure that you're all understanding what good looks like before you even start your test. Otherwise, everyone's subjective. Well, maybe it's working here, or maybe it's working there. At the very beginning, how are we going to measure it? What does good look like? And we'll all be on the same page. So then that way we're really emotionless and we're going through the test and moving our businesses forward. And the third, and probably the most important, which I live and breathe every single day, is it's the unifier with finance. And I always see, I'm going to a summit in a couple weeks that it's all around like CMO and CFO and how are they gonna work together and communicate together. And the most important thing is that you get finance on your side. And you can do that if you're measuring and showing them that all of your efforts are actually leading toward the same goal, which is, of course, making money profitably.
Right. And that all sounds great on paper, but obviously, if you guys have done any kind of measurement, you see that it's not always roses, it's not always pretty, and you have to have a measurement framework that is adaptive to where you are as a business, where your business is, what stage it's at, and also what your reality is, right? And one of the realities is that right now measurement, there's a lot of headwinds in measurement, right? That's making everything very hard for us. First thing is signal loss. So with privacy issues and going to cookieless, we're getting more into model-based measurement rather than deterministic measurement, which really makes it more important than ever to really have a way to calibrate the data that you're getting from your ad platforms, your analytics platforms, to really represent what the reality of your business actually is, what incremental value these marketing efforts are actually bringing for your business. The second thing is a lot of DTC brands, which is a great thing, they're expanding. They're expanding into retail media networks, and they're expanding into marketplaces, which actually creates more walled gardens, and you get more dashboards that don't really, reporting dashboards that don't really speak to each other, at least not yet. And then lastly, Alicia was alluding to, is priorities, right? All of us in this room have probably had a lot of scrutiny on our marketing strategy because everyone expects profitability now, right? And so one of the challenges here is being able to create that space for yourself to do and implement the strategy that you believe is going to be good for the long-term growth of the brand, but also giving yourself that space to actually measure the impact of what you're doing. And so all that sounds great, and what we wanted to do here and talk to you guys a little bit about how we actually develop a measurement framework when you have a situation with all these headwinds, right? The one thing I will say is every brand is in a different stage, right? So there is no one silver bullet. What you need to do is, again, use multiple multiple tools in your toolkit and also different data sources to stitch together what is the reality of your business, right? And the way we do that is a three-stage approach here to make that easy for everyone, because it's not an easy thing. And the one thing I will say to you guys, just taking a little pause here, is this slide is my favorite slide, and this probably tells you everything you need to know about me. It's very like arrows. It shows you the direction you're going, right? It's very like more analytical than design. And I say that because our marketing department torched me for putting this slide in this deck last second. And so if there's one thing you guys can do for me, a favor, is if you guys meet anyone on the marketing department at Within, not only should you tell them that you loved hearing Alicia and Kavi speak, but tell them you loved this slide, this one slide. I would appreciate that a lot. But
this slide was made for me.
Yes, exactly.
This slide was really made for me,
this
and
slide
I love it. And this was like, you'll learn, but what really sealed the deal. So we're the data people.
Yeah, exactly. Jokes aside, what I love about this slide is, again, it's a three-stage approach for you to develop a framework for yourself. It's discovery, setting up the foundation, and validation. And so I want to talk to you guys a little bit on if you were to set up a framework for yourself, how you would implement this yourself. So the first thing here in terms of discovery is all about really recognizing and identifying your goal and constraint, right? Your goal being what your business needs to maximize to reach your business objectives. And your constraint is like, what is it that's holding you back from maximizing that goal to infinity, right? Once you do that, then you get into this place where you would need to identify the gap. Now, this can be in terms of gaps between different teams. So like we talked about marketing and finance. So the gap between what the teams believe the goal and constraint are, because you'll see, and we've experienced this a lot, that when we get everyone in the same room, every person from different department, they say there's a different goal and constraint, right? So that's very important to identify. And then the other part of identifying the gap is about, once you've identified the goal and your constraint, identifying where you don't actually have the reporting capabilities to actually measure if you're hitting those KPIs. Once you've done that, you get into the foundation stage where you then actually set up reporting, custom reporting to actually measure the KPIs that matter for the goal, right, and the constraint. You don't want to do too many KPIs here. You want to be very focused, because then you get very distracted. Then you're trying to measure for multiple things, and everyone goes a different direction. And then finally, it's the validation section, and it's probably my favorite section of it. It's great to have all these reports and all this data, but you need to be able to calibrate the data, and also you need to make sure that you validate that the data is actually what's reality to your business. It's actually incremental value that's coming for your business. And actually, Alicia, I wanted to turn this to you a little bit. If you could maybe talk about how this came to life for you guys in Movado Group throughout our relationship.
Yeah, so I mentioned that this slide was made for me, and it truly was kind of the beginning of us trying to really establish our working relationship together 3 years ago. We've been fortunate to be partners with Within for 3 years now, and when we started, even just the very beginning of what are our business goals and what are our gaps, what we quickly learned was everybody wanted a different goal within the company. I knew how to get us to where we needed to go, but what success looked different from finance, looked different from the CEO, looked different from the chief digital officer and the head of marketplace and e-commerce. So really ground one was, what are our goals? And it can't be you have your cake and eat it too, right? It can't be I want revenue and I want profit. You can have profitable growth, but then you have to figure out what that balance is, and that will really interrupt and change what your foundation and your framework is going to be, because you really have to set up what your goals are first. What we learned quickly was we figured out our goals, and then we had a ton of gaps. We were a growing DTC business, a very established retail business. And when you're trying to figure out how do we continue to grow a luxury business with a very long consumer life cycle, right? So that's 4 to 6 month purchase cycle. And you need to continue to build and the brand, build equity, romance, but also drive sales and not alienate a sales channel. You start to have competing goals. So we really needed to think about, okay, where are we going to start? What do we have? It was nothing. We had no dashboards. Kaveh built me the most beautiful dashboard ever that we still use today. And we had a lot of walled gardens. And then we had to really think about, like, where are we spending? And every marketer will tell you they want to be like, we have the most robust media mix. We did not. And it was okay to honestly say that and say, we don't have a robust media mix. We have 2 channels. We have an A and a B. But within those channels, we have different campaigns with different goals. And so as we started to break all of this down, what we realized where our goals and constraints actually were we had a long lead time when it came to path to purchase. We had a luxury item that needed romancing. We had a business that really was mostly focused on spending in mid and lower funnel, and that'll come to play in a minute when I tell you where we're going and how we got there. And then seasonality is such a really big piece about watches. We really saw that, Q2 and Q4 were the biggies, right? Mother's Day, Father's Day, graduation, holiday, and then everyone has a birthday, anniversary, a birth, or something happening throughout the ways. But what we realized was our evergreen we were doing our jobs too well, right? We were converting too well, and we weren't filling the funnel fast enough. So we started to create this framework in partnership with the agency where it was like, okay, in evergreen, how much are we spending on our channels and our different campaign types? And then in our holidays, how did that shift? Just naturally, what were we doing? We weren't trying to change anything. We were just trying to measure what we were doing and create a foundation for ourselves. And then we thought about, how do we get there? And we were joking backstage, but it literally was like, is our ramp 4 minutes or 4 days? Is it 5 days? Is it 10 days? We had no clue. We would just do it differently every single time based off of how we were working in that moment. But as we got smarter and as we continued to go, we started to think about things like geo and how long the different geos were taking to convert and where we had really strong brick and mortar presence through our retail partners versus like our DTC. And we started to create this framework that leadership was like, yeah, I can get down with this. I can invest more money. How much more profit can you drive? How much more revenue in the top? We started to think about targets that ebbed and flowed throughout the quarters on how much we were investing. We were willing to take a hit on the bottom because we knew that the top would come and balance it out throughout a quarter or a half or a year. And then as we went through this, I had mentioned earlier, by year 2, we were doing our job so well, we needed to invest more into the brand and keep bringing people in on that customer journey, building equity and building awareness. So really that became a conversation from finance of, that's great, but how are you going to tell me that dollar, those extra dollars are going to drive extra profit? How are you going to tell me that you're moving people through the funnel? How are you going to tell me that the customer journey is shifting? And so I came back to Kaveh and team and said, hi, we need new KPIs. Everything can't be conversion because we as marketers know that. So we had to go back and change our framework and really think about no longer this funnel. The funnel's collapsed, but let's talk about the consumer. How is the consumer discovering us and how do they want to move through that discovery, that romancing, that top of mind and consideration for, say, holiday season, which is here now, right? It starts earlier and earlier and earlier. So Kaveh, do you want to take them through around how we shifted our KPIs through another beautiful slide made specifically for me?
I was just literally about to say that. Another slide that marketing did not like for me to put last second, but literally the same slide that I had shown Alicia once we had this conversation. It was really important for us to actually understand who we're talking to and where in their consumer journey we're talking to them, right? And the reason for that is once we had identified that, like Alicia was mentioning, we had to shift everyone's mindset on what KPI we were actually judging success on, right? So when it came to like doing like the romancing that Alicia was talking about or building that brand equity, like if we're like, hey, we're going after these people in the discovery phase, we did report on video view completion, for example. We would report on reach, right? And judge success on that. When it came to like the stage where they're making a decision between products, we did look at site engagement metrics like email sign up and search volume and other metrics like that. And what you'll see is like like we mentioned, every business is different. Even within the Movado group, like we had the different brands and we had to shift KPIs. Would you like to talk a little bit about the difference there?
Yeah, I mean, this is in play right now. And some great examples, you know, the Movado brand, I hope you've seen our Icons campaign. We got Mr. Ludacris, who I love more than life. I love him so much, but also Christian McCaffrey and Jessica Alba and a couple others. But really, when we started to put this out, it was, how do we know it's working? How do we know we're reaching new people? And it's like, okay, well, new audience, are they complete? Are they watching our videos? Right? And then are they coming to site and are they doing something? I have somebody from my email team here who, this is their real life example, right? We're putting all these people, we're driving them traffic, and she comes to me and she's like, Alicia, our welcome series, like we got all these people, but they're not doing anything. And I was like, I hope they're not doing anything. I hope they came in, gave us our email, and now we have free marketing. And then we work them through over time, and I don't have to keep paying to bring them back, right? So this is getting everybody unified on, we're doing our job, we're moving them through, they're becoming in love with us. Then on the other side of it, we have an outlet business. And the maturity of those two businesses are different. But also the business goals are different, right? Outlets, you want high profit, you want people to come in, know your brand, come in with intention, not have to market them as frequently. You want loyalty, you want high LTV, you want different metrics that look differently as you are really engaging and creating a relationship with those consumers. So some of the things we look at on a regular basis, search volume here, my most favorite one. How many of you actually know your branded search volume in absolute numbers on a monthly basis? I guarantee you probably no hands will go up. If you do, please raise your hand because we're besties and we should talk after. But that is something that literally the CEO will like walk by and be like, Alicia, what's our branded search volume? And he gets excited when I tell him what it is. And it's because we know we're doing our job. We know there's high intent out there. And we know when we need to start pushing on the gas to create that high intent. And then we find and we measure the causality on the outlet business, right? We don't want to pay for that. We want to pay for the full price, but we want the outlet to continue to drive that momentum too. So this chart, we still use it today. And we unify the conversation of, hey, remember, right now, I had this conversation last night. We're reaching new people. We're just filling the funnel, right? We're just starting to get people aware and excited for holiday. So video view completion's great. Our going back and remarketing to people who were engaged with another piece of content and getting them to take action to come to site and learn about our Icons campaign, going great. Email signups, going great. Our search volume, slowly and steadily increasing. You don't want it to look like this because you're gonna balloon out and you're gonna hit a point of diminishing return too fast. So this was like a pivotal change in bringing the entire leadership team together to say, hey, I know what good looks like at every stage of the journey. And that's enabled us to deepen our relationship. We were able to get brand dollars on a regular basis to be able to invest and continue to build brand equity. We've worked with some of our smaller brands in the portfolio, same framework, obviously different goals and constraints, so you are able to manipulate that to fit those business needs, that life cycle better. But overall, you know, we weren't afraid to fail. We really had to get out there and test and have our arms around the business enough that we'd still move us forward. And I think as we go through COVID, this can kind of feel a bit, where do I start? Yeah. And I'll tell you, we started at ground zero. Like really, like we had nothing to do. We had to build it from the ground up. So why don't you take them through your framework here?
Just to wrap everything up, because a lot of this, like Alicia was mentioning, can feel like a lot, right? So we like to always leave everyone with a crawl, walk, run. Usually for the crawl section, first 30, 60 days, what we recommend is making sure you're defining your goal and constraints very, very clearly. Setting up like a lightweight MMM. Now, the beauty about what's in here is like, there are a lot of great measurement partners around right now. They're great, but like sometimes the reality fact is like you don't have the budget for that, or your marketing effort, like your marketing is not there yet, right? There's a lot of open source sources that you can use to set up MMMs or do experiments like lift study experiments. We actually do this for our clients. We've done this for Movado and other clients where we actually partner with Google and use their new Meridian model to set something up and at least directionally show our clients what direction they need to go, set those guardrails for them. When we get to the walk section, this is really in the first quarter, where after you've done everything in the first 30 to 60 days in the crawl section, this is where you, like what Alicia was talking about, like you're probably going to start hitting diminishing returns on your lower funnel media. And this is where you want to start discussing like, hey, that's how I'm capturing demand, what actually generates demand for us. And you need to make sure you identify that so that you can understand what KPIs, what are the leading indicators that you need to measure that we showed in the last slide. And then finally, you are allowed to, once you've seen the movement on these leading indicators, these KPIs, only then are you allowed to then make a connection and stitch together the uplift in these leading indicators like search volume to lower funnel events like revenue, profit, ROAS, right? With that, we just want to leave you guys with 4 points. This is your take home. If you don't remember anything, maybe remember this. There's no perfect system. All tools have their limits. MMMs have their limits. Lift studies have their limits. Use measurement as directional, not like as a map quest step by step. Like it's not going to get you there. Don't get analysis paralysis. Avoid and don't get stuck in this efficiency trap, right? A lot of times I've seen marketers like do incrementality tests, look at incremental ROAS, realize that incremental ROAS is not profitable. They keep lowering their investment, which sometimes that is needed, but you definitely need to reinvest that in another part of your consumer journey so that you're actually helping longer term growth there. And then finally, success is a balance between rigor and the nuances and also like flexibility, right? If you're way too stuck on the nuances, you're gonna move way too slow, and the results that you're gonna start implementing might not matter anymore for the reality that you're functioning in now. And with that, I just wanted to thank you guys again for being here, and we'll pass it to any questions.
All right, we've got a couple from Slido. Putting aside that walled gardens don't speak to each other, do you trust the measurement provided by walled gardens?
Yeah, so I would say that like anything, you need to calibrate them, right? So like whether that's using tools like we mentioned, like setting up a lightweight MMM or setting up like a geo experiment, you need to validate. You need to trust but verify and validate everything using these tools.
All right, next up. Has MMM taught you that any channels you were trying didn't actually work, so you stopped using them?
Yes. We have tried to figure out TikTok, and we might be doing it now, like we might be like on to something now, but we've tried for about 2 years and we just didn't have the right content. It wasn't working, adding any value in the MMN, and we took the data to leadership and we're like, we got to stop this until we have content that resonates. So now we've taken a big pivot. If you see us on TikTok, we have a lot of influencer content, less of this, what everyone knows, but the shiny produced content. And so by having that data, we were able to actually go and get budget and support the brand team and being able to do some testing within influencer, not just channels, but also campaign types. That also, we learned some campaign types that weren't working for us, optimization goals. So we really started to pivot off of being able to have those learnings.
All right, we got one that just came in. What can publishers and vendors do to help with measurement in instances that you'd mentioned where challenges such as lack of budget or scale arise?
Do you want me to start and then I'll hand it to you? From a brand perspective, our vendors and partners that are the best are the ones that understand our goals from the very beginning and don't come in with an agenda. And we have incredible partners that come in and they see and they hear us and we say like, this isn't working, and they hear us and they say, all right, let us go back and figure this out. And they partner with the agency and they're not cutting the agency out. They're realizing our agency team and my team on my side, we're one team. And they respect us as one team. So I think if you're a publisher, you're a vendor, you're looking to get budget, come in, hear a goal, hear a blocker that we're trying to work through, and come up with a solution and meet us halfway in the middle. I also recommend, not every vendor can do this, but mitigate some of the risk? Can you give us some added value so we could shift some dollars in a way that isn't going to impact the campaign results we need to come up, so that way we can meet you halfway on the budget and be able to have a meaningful test? I see a lot of vendors come in and say $50,000, $100,000 minimum, and they expect us to siphon that off. And I'm like, I know we look rich over here, but we don't have budgets that big. So if they're willing to come in and add some added value, have a condensed timeline, and really be hands-on, I found from my standpoint, that's been most successful. You work with a bunch of different clients, so it might look different.
Yeah, I mean, everything you said, I would second that. The only thing I would add is I would understand the measurement framework that brand is also functioning under, and then show how you're going to judge success using that measurement framework. So whether they're using lift studies, like partnering with someone to actually run that lift study, or whether it's like what we showed you guys in the previous slide that marketing gave me crap for, around like the different KPIs, understanding those KPIs, and again, showing and working with the team, agency, and the brand to talk about what success will look like. And once you have that agreement, I think that'll be great.
Okay, we did just get one in about KPIs, but we're a little bit over, so whoever asked that question, you'll probably have to go talk to Kaveh and Alicia afterwards. In the meantime, thanks to both of you.
Thank you.